How's it going, everyone? We're back with another weekly watch list. So it's going to be everything I'm looking out for in the stock market this upcoming week, all my levels and zones. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. It means the absolute world to me. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider dropping a like, a comment, or subscribing to the channel for more. It would mean the absolute world to me. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. So I'm going to try to make this one a little bit more condensed, a little bit more efficient. I feel like they're being a little bit longer. Because I like to yap about the market and the levels, but I want to keep it concise. And, it does help that we're at all-time highs. We do not have any resistance zones above. We'll see where the futures open up tonight. That should be interesting. But let's kick it off with ES. So first thing I'm watching, of course, is previous day high, previous day low. For longs, I'll be watching over the previous day high, break and retest over the previous day high. For downside, not my favorite, but break and retest under previous day low, back down to the 70.89 level in the former all-time high. It's not my favorite, like shorting into all-time highs. Not ideal. Honestly, I don't really love shorts unless we get below 7,000. It might look a little bit better on SPY, but as far as ES goes, not my favorite. We'll see. I mean, I would risk maybe a half size position here under the PDL, but just shorting into the previous all-time high. Maybe we gap down below it. We'll see. I also have this demand zone down here as well. I do keep supply and demand around just a little bit these days, but I do have a 2-hour demand zone here as well at 70.40 and 70.29. Again, we could gap down below that, so we'll see what happens there. Let's go over to SPY. So again, upside over previous day high, 712.39. As far as downside goes, again, underneath the previous day low, there is room, but we do have another previous day low, previous day high actually here at 702.78. Now let me double check. And that is a gap as well. I thought I put this in here on Friday. I guess not. So, there is room for that gap fill. But again, with the way the weekend is and the news, we might just gap down below it right away. Below that, we have 700, former all-time high, the 4-hour all-time high, the daily all-time high. I marked both of them, and another previous day low at 698.49. Below that, I'll absolutely, and I do prefer, downside down to 694.2. And then we have 4-hour demand down here as well. Maybe we get all the way down here this week as well, 688.86. So let's go over to NQ. Same thing in NQ. NQ is at the all-time high, so break and retest over this previous day high. I'll look at longs. Same thing with puts, below the previous day low and 26.564 and the 4-hour high of 26.513.75. I watch puts down to 26.273.59. All right. Let me get rid of this little pivot we have right here. That's, pretty much the same thing as this. So below this I like a lot better, right back down to 26,000. That looks a lot better for downside rather than up here. It's a little bit less tempting just because we're at all-time highs. Don't like that as much. Let's go to QQQ. Again, we could just gap down below it. It's here at QQQ. You can see this even more, right? Sure, there's room under 642.18 in the PDL, but I don't really want to long into these. This looks better for a pullback long. So I'll be watching pullback longs down here to the former all-time highs. We have a 4-hour all-time high at 638.76 and the daily all-time high at 637. So if we get below that and 635.24 low, definitely would like and watch puts below that down to 628.2, right? And let me double check any daily gap here. So yeah, this is also gap fill here on Q as well. So again, we might gap below it, but we'll keep it on there for now. All right. All right, let's get over to the indices. All right, not indices, my bad. Individuals, indices, equities. All right, so let's get into it. Apple first. All right. First levels I'm watching, previous day high, previous day low. I'll be watching calls over the previous day high and this 272.81 up to my next high at 276.11. As far as downside goes, my first area of support is this previous day low, which is a really nice 4-hour pivot as well at 266.41. Below that, we do have the daily 100, so I really don't like shorting into that as well. I'd most likely be watching underneath the daily 100 back down to 261.29, which, by the way, I had marked out last week. An absolutely beautiful resistance to support flip. Didn't play it on Thursday. I was trading futures, but it was beautiful to see it play out here. So that's what I'll be watching on Apple. I do like Apple as a long-term thesis here as well. Really like this trend line we got going on here. iPhone's coming out later this year. Typically that's Apple when Apple usually makes a move. It looks very similar to this previous break here, so could be looking at some Apple leaps here. And I've been loving buying leaps recently on some companies that I'm already using, trading, whatever, things like that. I have some Robinhood leaps right now, which are doing nice. So let's get over to Google I have a few other as well. I have Oscar leaps, I have Robinhood leaps, I have Rocket Lab leaps, Amazon leaps. I think that's it. But yeah, loving them so far, going well. So I just love how much time you get with them. So, all right, Google calls over the previous day high at 343.29. Above that is your all-time high at 349.75. As far as downside goes, I'd like to see it get below this gap. So again, there's room here from 336.24 to 334.50, but you know, it's just such a small amount of room. I'd rather, especially with the we're getting your all-time highs, the market the way it is, I'd rather play the pullback long at the gap, reclaim the PDL, and look at longs. If we get below it, then I'll watch shorts to 330.86, and below that we've allotted them down to 323, and I really want this 322 retest. This would be a good spot for me, honestly, to look at adding a swing, a leap, something of that nature. This 322 looks pretty solid. I'd love for us to get back down here and retest that area. Now let's go over to Amazon. Amazon, absolutely crazy. Previous day high, previous day low. Over the previous day high, I'll be watching calls up to the all-time high, 259. As far as downside goes, I'll watch puts underneath 250.11 down to 244.11. Down there, we have a gap fill at 240.45. Previous all-time highs, 2025 high. We have another gap fill at 233.81. So we'll see if we get some downside there this week. AMD, absolutely nuclear. Again, all-time highs. I'll watch calls over the previous day high. As far as downside goes, we do have this 4-hour demand. It's going to be my top watch on AMD for this week. Very strong, clear, obvious, super clear. This is swing trade territory for me. This is something I will not miss this week. I absolutely will be trying. I don't care if it's wrong. I don't care if it's stop out, whatever. I will absolutely be trying longs here, myself personally, at this 4-hour demand, 100%, right? And that's from 260.88 down to 260.59. So break below that, you know, with strength, I'm out, right? So really simple. I'll watch puts down to that demand and this previous day low here at 261.51. Below that, I have another previous day low, 257.15. So really don't like puts in this zone. Needs to get below that. Underneath 257.15, I'll watch puts down to 251.88. Let's go over to NVIDIA. NVIDIA's got all types of supply, so I'm not really interested in it right now until we get over these levels here. So like we're at the previous day high, 201.88. Okay, break and retest over that. There's only a little bit of room up to this high here, this November 15th high. I'm sorry, November 5th high. And then we have November 14th high. Is that even right? Hold on. Oh, 4th. Okay. We have the November 4th and 5th high right here. I don't want to be long into this. We get over 204, you could take longs up to the gap. Now here's the thing. Part of me, like, yes, we have these highs here, but part of me thinks NVIDIA could just move over previous day high up to that gap fill. So I'll be watching to see what happens here. I'd rather just not participate. I'd rather just watch. You know, maybe we come up here, we get a reject at the gap. That's pretty good risk to reward. Have a stop above 206.88. Above that's your all-time high. So we'll see what happens. Definitely an interesting spot. I'm curious to see what happens. As far as downside goes, I'll watch puts underneath the previous day low. A little bit of room down to 195.74. Good enough for me. And then below that, I'm really looking forward to this retest. I want to see if we get this retest here at these former highs of 193.68. Below that, down to 190 again. 190 retest would be really nice as well. So that's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please consider dropping a like, comment, subscribing, sharing the video. It would mean the absolute world to me. Have a great and blessed week inside and outside the market, and I'll see you all in the next watch list. Peace.